Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber Audio Magazine. Each edition brings you sharp insights and fresh perspectives from the world of cybersecurity, straight to your ears. For more resources and content, visit baremetalcyber.com or cyberauthor.me. Let's dive in. The SOC Pager Olympics begin at the worst possible hour, when the shrill buzz of a pager tears through the stillness of the night like a starting pistol. It's 3 in the morning, and the world outside is quiet, but inside one analyst's bedroom, the race has already begun. Eyes snap open, hands fumble for the laptop, and adrenaline battles the fog of half-sleep. There is no stadium, no metal podium, no cheering crowd. Only a single question echoing in the analyst's mind. Is this one real? Most of the time, it isn't. The alarm that pulled them from their bed is just another false start, a meaningless blip misclassified as urgent. After a few keystrokes and bleary investigation, the analyst knows the truth. There is nothing to fix, nothing to contain, nothing to defend. And yet, the damage is already done. Sleep is broken, focus is shattered, and the clock ticks closer to the next alert that will demand the same exhausting ritual. The metaphor of an Olympics may sound tongue-in-cheek, but it perfectly captures the absurdity of what happens in many security operations centers. Organizations often treat endurance in the face of nonstop interruptions as a kind of professional honor, as though surviving night after night of false alarms somehow proves commitment. Metrics reinforce this illusion. Dashboards glow with detection counts, executives equate higher numbers with stronger defense, and analysts are caught in the middle, sprinting laps that go nowhere. The truth is far harsher. Every false alarm siphons away trust and attention from those who must respond. Over weeks and months, analysts grow conditioned to doubt the urgency of every page. When the system cries wolf too many times, the natural response is hesitation, and hesitation is the last thing you want when a real breach unfolds. What looks like vigilance on paper is, in reality, erosion of both human stamina and system credibility. But this is not only a story about technology gone noisy, it is a story about people. Each alert that jolts an analyst awake is more than data. It's a stolen hour of rest, a disrupted household, a fragment of resilience chipped away. Over time, these constant interruptions create cycles of fatigue, cynicism, and eventually burnout. Talented defenders leave the field not because they lack skill, but because the game itself is unwinnable. In this episode, we're not here to complain for the sake of catharsis. We're here to dissect why false alarms dominate, how they quietly sabotage the very mission of defense, and what can be done to change the rules of the competition. The real victory isn't about proving endurance in the Pager Olympics. It's about rewriting the playbook so that the race itself is worth running. False starts define much of the SOC experience, and understanding where they come from is the first step toward ending them. One major culprit is the world of misconfigured thresholds. Many tools ship with vendor defaults designed to catch everything, no matter how trivial. A small spike in network traffic, a user mistyping a password 3 times, or a scheduled system backup, all can be flagged as suspicious under rigid, context-free rules. These alerts may look helpful on paper, but in practice, they become nothing more than noise. They wake engineers at hours when their judgment is at its weakest, only to confirm that nothing is wrong. Each false alarm becomes like the starter pistol at a race where no competition has actually begun. The more often it happens, the less credibility the pager carries. Analysts start asking not what went wrong, but why am I being called at all? That shift in mindset is costly and dangerous. Duplication is another source of chaos, and it's one that multiplies the damage. A single event, a remote login from an employee traveling abroad, can ripple across multiple systems at once. The CM may label it suspicious. The endpoint detection system might flag it as anomalous, and the cloud provider could declare it an unrecognized device. Without correlation logic or deduplication in place, each of these signals generates its own alert, often delivered in rapid succession. What should have been one ticket becomes 3 or 4 separate wake-ups. For the analyst, it feels like being asked to run the same false start sprint again and again. Instead of focusing on analysis, they are buried in cross-referencing duplicate alerts to make sure they are all pointing to the same harmless event. This duplication doesn't improve security. It only undermines trust while draining time, patience, and energy. Human beings are not wired to excel at 3 in the morning, yet the SOC Pager Olympics demand exactly that. When a pager jolts an analyst awake, the first hurdle isn't the alert itself, it's physiology. Sleep inertia, the fog that lingers in the moments after waking, clouds judgment and slows decision-making. In this state, analysts must triage complex security events, yet their brains are still shaking off dreams. Cognitive performance can dip sharply, meaning the risk of misclassifying a harmless anomaly as dangerous, or worse, dismissing a real threat as nothing, is higher than during daylight hours. The cruel irony is clear. The moments when analysts are least able to think critically are often the moments when organizations expect them to be sharpest. Every false alarm in that fragile state doesn't just waste time. It undermines confidence and makes the next alarm even harder to trust. Sleep loss compounds when on-call rotations stretch over days or weeks. A single night of broken rest may be tolerable, but repeated wake-ups erode circadian rhythms. Analysts finish shifts feeling drained, then try to return to daytime work while carrying the weight of fatigue. The toll is cumulative. Concentration wanes, creativity shrinks, and irritability rises. Worse still, the very work needed to reduce false alarms, tuning detections, refining thresholds, and building context requires sustained focus. Yet the people best equipped to fix the system are often the ones most exhausted by it. Like marathon runners forced to sprint without recovery, analysts are pushed to operate at peak performance while running on fumes. In this cycle, fatigue both results from and feeds into alert chaos, ensuring that the Pager Olympics never end. The psychological weight of constant interruption is as damaging as the physical exhaustion. Each buzz of the pager carries uncertainty. Will it be real this time, or just another waste of effort? That unpredictability builds chronic anxiety. Analysts start to dread their nights on call, bracing for alarms that may or may not matter. Postmortems too often amplify the pressure, focusing blame on individuals who missed the signal while ignoring the impossible conditions under which they were working. Without psychological safety, teams stop learning from mistakes and instead start hiding them, fearing judgment more than failure. The cost of this culture is attrition. Talented defenders eventually decide no paycheck is worth the endless cycle of fatigue, anxiety, and blame. When organizations lose these professionals, they don't just lose skills, they lose resilience. The Pager Olympics don't just exhaust athletes, they drive them from the arena entirely. The heart of solving pager fatigue lies in asking a deceptively simple question: what truly deserves to wake someone in the middle of the night? Too often, the criteria are fuzzy, inherited from vendor defaults or dictated by outdated playbooks. The result is a flood of false urgency, where analysts are yanked out of bed for events that could easily have waited until morning. To reset expectations, organizations must draw a bright line between signals that merit disruption and those that do not. The best formula combines 3 pillars: impact, urgency, and actionability. A page should only fire if an incident could meaningfully harm the business, requires immediate attention, and has clear steps an analyst can take in real time. Anything less should be filtered to a quieter channel. Without this discipline, the pager becomes a hammer, smashing down on every nail, whether it deserves it or not. Once those criteria are established, they must be codified into a clear taxonomy of response. Not all alerts are created equal, and treating them as though they are invites chaos. Pages should be reserved for true emergencies. Notifications can handle important but non-urgent events, routed to dashboards or inboxes where they await the morning shift. Tickets should capture the bulk of work that needs structured follow-up. Logs, finally, provide the baseline record of system activity, important for investigations but never urgent in themselves. This hierarchy does more than reduce noise. It sets expectations. Analysts know that if the pager buzzes, it matters. That confidence restores trust in the system and ensures attention is focused where it is most needed. A thoughtful taxonomy doesn't just trim alert volume, it rewires the way a SOC perceives and responds to its own environment. A critical mindset shift is embracing symptoms over signals. Too often, alerts are built on raw telemetry packet counts, CPU usage, or port scans that may or may not indicate a problem. These signals can be interesting, but they rarely justify waking a human at 3 in the morning. Instead, SOCs should prioritize symptoms of real pain, systems failing, services crashing, or evidence of data exfiltration in progress. A ransomware outbreak encrypted in files is a symptom worth a page. A harmless spike in logins is not. Automation should fill the gap for events that are significant but manageable. Degrade notify patterns allow systems to remediate automatically while informing engineers in non-urgent ways. In this model, humans only intervene when their judgment or creativity is truly required. The principle is simple but powerful. Never wake someone for a problem that a machine can solve on its own. By sharpening criteria, defining taxonomies, and focusing on symptoms, organizations reclaim control of the pager and give their defenders permission to sleep. Quiet in the SOC doesn't happen by chance. It has to be engineered with the same care as any other security control. The first step is adopting a detection lifecycle, a structured process that mirrors scientific testing. Instead of unleashing unproven rules directly into production, teams start with hypotheses. What does this type of attack look like, and how might it manifest in logs? From there, rules are run in shadow mode, where they collect data but never trigger a pager. Replay testing against historical datasets reveals how often these detections would have fired in the past. If noise levels are high, the rule can be tuned before it ever reaches an analyst's pocket at 3 in the morning. This life cycle slows down the rush to deploy, but dramatically improves quality. The result is fewer wasted wake-ups and a stronger signal-to-noise ratio, which restores confidence in the SOC's tools and processes. Noise suppression must also be built into the architecture itself. Duplication merges multiple alerts from the same root event into a single case, sparing analysts the misery of investigating clones. Suppression windows prevent services that flap, going up and down repeatedly, from spamming the pager with identical alarms. Maintenance modes provide another safeguard, silencing alerts during planned updates or patch cycles. These techniques may sound simple, but their absence turns minor issues into catastrophic noise storms. Every time an engineer is pulled from rest for something the system should have filtered, trust erodes a little more. Correlation by design adds another layer of quiet, linking signals from across the environment into a coherent narrative. Instead of 4 tools yelling about the same login, one enriched case arrives with context intact. Engineering quiet is about respecting human limits while amplifying machine intelligence. Trust is also built through enrichment. A cryptic log line isn't helpful at 3 a.m. It's a liability. Alerts should come preloaded with context. Who owns the system? what its business function is, what recent changes were made, and what the likely impact of failure would be. With this enrichment, analysts can make faster, more confident decisions, even in the grogginess of interrupted sleep. Metrics must evolve as well. Instead of bragging about the number of detections, SOCs should measure wake-ups per engineer, precision versus recall, and analyst trust scores. These metrics reflect the true health of the system, not how much noise it can generate, but how effectively it empowers humans to respond. Organizations that engineer quiet aren't giving up on vigilance, they're making vigilance sustainable. The quiet pager becomes a symbol of maturity, showing that the SOC has learned to focus its power where it counts. Alerts without context are landmines, especially at 3 in the morning. An analyst awakened from deep sleep needs clarity, not riddles. When the pager delivers only a raw log line or a vague, suspicious activity message, it forces responders to scramble for information in their most vulnerable state. That scramble wastes precious minutes, increases the chance of error, and deepens resentment toward the system. Auto-enrichment solves this by attaching ownership details, potential blast radius, and recent configuration changes directly to the alert. Instead of a puzzle, the analyst receives a story: who is affected, why it matters, and what to check first. This level of context doesn't just shorten the mean time to acknowledge, it builds trust. Analysts start to believe that when the pager goes off, it will guide them toward action rather than leave them wandering in the dark. Metrics play a vital role in reinforcing this trust. Traditional SOC dashboards emphasize detection counts, celebrating the sheer number of alerts generated. But numbers alone are a poor measure of quality. 1,000 false alarms aren't evidence of vigilance, they're proof of dysfunction. Mature teams shift their focus to more meaningful indicators: the ratio of true positives to false positives, the average number of wake-ups per engineer per week, and the speed with which enriched alerts can be resolved. Some teams even survey analysts, asking them to score their confidence in pager alerts. These trust scores reveal whether the system is empowering defenders or eroding their will to respond. Measuring quality over quantity reframes success, rewarding teams for making analysts' lives easier rather than harder. When context and quality metrics come together, culture begins to change. Analysts stop dreading the pager because they know each alert has earned its place. Managers stop boasting about high detection volumes and instead take pride in low false positive rates. The pager becomes a respected tool rather than a symbol of torment. In this environment, analysts regain energy for proactive work, building detections, hunting threats, and improving defenses, rather than burning it all on useless midnight sprints. Enrichment and quality measurement aren't technical luxuries, they are lifelines that keep the SOC sustainable. They transform the Pager Olympics from a punishing endurance contest into a disciplined, meaningful performance where every effort counts. Leadership sets the tone for how the SOC treats its people, and empathy is as much a security control as any firewall. Too often, leaders glorify the always-on hero culture, praising analysts who pull all-nighters and respond to every alert instantly. That mindset might produce short-term wins, but it's unsustainable. A better model acknowledges sleep as part of security hygiene. Leaders who respect downtime, limit unnecessary interruptions, and emphasize sustainable practices send a clear signal. The goal isn't to prove toughness, it's to preserve effectiveness. When defenders are well rested, they're sharper, faster, and more creative. Empathy from the top cascades down, shifting the culture from endurance for its own sake to endurance with purpose. A quiet pager doesn't mean negligence, it means quality. Analysts should be encouraged to silence rules that consistently produce false alarms. Instead of fearing blame, they should be empowered to challenge noise and engineer better detections. Retrospectives must reflect this philosophy. Rather than pointing fingers when something slips through, teams should ask what the system taught them and how to improve it. This culture of psychological safety fosters openness, creativity, and innovation. Analysts who know they won't be punished for questioning flawed rules or suggesting radical changes are more likely to build the kind of SOC that thrives, not just survives. Replacing hero culture with sustainability culture is a conscious act. Training must go beyond incident response and include detection engineering, system tuning, and wellness practices. Analysts need to feel like builders as much as responders. This shift reframes the SOC from a reactive unit trapped in endless fire drills to a proactive team shaping its own environment. Some organizations that have embraced this change report dramatic results. Pager volume dropping by 80%, burnout rates plummeting, and detection accuracy improving at the same time. The lesson is clear. Quiet isn't a sign of laziness, it's evidence that the system works. Leaders who embed empathy and sustainability into their culture turn the Pager Olympics into a meaningful competition, one where the team's energy is conserved for the races that truly matter. The SOC Pager Olympics don't end with more endurance. They end when organizations decide the competition itself is flawed. The false starts, the duplicate storms, the phantom anomalies. Each of these represents a system that values noise over clarity. But clarity is the true gold medal. The real win comes when every page is trusted, every wake-up is justified, and analysts know their time and health are respected. By redefining criteria, engineering quiet, enriching alerts with context, and building a culture rooted in empathy, SOCs transform from chaotic proving grounds into sustainable defense teams. This isn't about silencing vigilance, it's about channeling it where it matters most. The gold medal isn't awarded for answering the most alarms. It's given to the teams who design a race worth running. The legacy of reshaping on-call culture reaches far beyond the SOC. When defenders are rested, confident, and supported, they not only respond better to incidents, they innovate. They hunt, they build, and they lead. Sleep becomes a security control, empathy becomes a force multiplier, and precision becomes the defining measure of strength. The Pager Olympics, once a punishing endurance contest, becomes a story of balance, sustainability, and respect for the people behind the screens. That is the race worth running, and that is the victory worth claiming. Thanks for listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Audio Newsletter. Stay sharp, stay secure, and explore more resources at baremetalcyber.com or cyberauthor.me.